Hi there, my name is Lucas. I'm 30 years old and live a relatively calm life in a small town in Virginia. You could say things have always been pretty uncomplicated for me. I work as an HVAC technician, live in a modest two-bedroom home, and belong to a community where everyone still greets you. People here wave from their cars, borrow each other's tools, and always lend a hand when needed. It's the kind of place that feels safe and familiar. I've always been the guy who pitches in helping with anything from carrying groceries to fixing a leaky pipe or mowing the lawn for an elderly neighbor. Nothing fancy, just honest living. Agreed. Across the street live Jeffrey and Sienna Harper. I've known them for years. They always seemed like the perfect couple with a large, well-kept house and a yard straight out of a magazine. We weren't best friends, but we'd exchange pleasantries, wave during holidays, and chat occasionally. One day I got home and went to grab my toolbox to fix a weak cabinet hinge in the kitchen, only to realize I was missing a special wrench. I could have waited, but I hate leaving projects unfinished, so I decided to head across the street to ask Jeffrey if he had one I could borrow. As I walked up their front path, something felt off. The porch light was on, but the curtains were drawn tight. I rang the doorbell and waited. No one came. Just as I turned to leave, the door creaked open, and there was Sienna. Auntie! I froze. Her eyes were puffy and red mascara smeared down her cheeks. Her hair was tangled, and she wore an oversized cardigan like she'd thrown it on without thinking. She looked utterly broken. Sienna, are you okay? I asked, completely caught off guard. She tried to pull herself together, giving a small smile that faded almost instantly. Lucas? Hi. I wasn't expecting anyone. My mind scrambled. Asking for the wrench now would be tone deaf. Sorry, I mumbled. I was going to ask to borrow a wrench, but it can wait. Are you okay? Her eyes welled up again. No, she said softly. I really am not. Something in me knew I couldn't just walk away. She looked like she needed someone, anyone, and I was the one standing there. If you want to talk, I can stay, I said hesitantly, or I can go if you'd rather be alone. She shook her head, wiped her face, and stepped aside. You're welcome to come in. Mom! I nodded and stepped inside. Their usually pristine home felt strange, heavy, like sadness had soaked into the walls. The lights were dim, a half-empty box of Kleenex sat on the coffee table, and a half-full wine glass rested beside an open bottle. Sienna gestured for me to sit. I took a seat, trying not to disturb the fragile quiet around us. She sat across from me, hands clasped tightly. I kicked Jeffrey out, she said suddenly, shattering the silence like glass. I didn't say anything at first. My heart sank. I'd never imagined they had problems, let alone something this severe. I've known for years, she said, her voice thick with anger, about the cheating, the lies. I ignored it. I thought I could fix things, but today I just couldn't anymore. I leaned forward, resting my elbows on my knees. I'm so sorry, Sienna. I had no idea. Who you Tom? She let out a bitter laugh and wiped another tear. Nobody did. I played the part, the loving wife, the perfect house, the ideal marriage. It was all fake. I just didn't want to be alone. I didn't want to feel like a failure. Her words cut deep. I didn't know what to say, but sometimes silence speaks louder than words. You're not a failure, I said quietly after a moment. You stood up for yourself. That takes guts. She looked at me for a long time like she was trying to believe it. You're a good man, Lucas, she said softly. I've been carrying this for so long. Now that it's out, I feel numb. Without thinking, I reached out and gently placed my hand on hers. You don't have to go through this alone, I said. I'm here. She squeezed my hand tightly, the first spark of life I'd seen in her since I walked in. Madam. We sat there for what felt like hours talking about everything: pain, betrayal, what it means to trust someone. She shared how Jeffrey had been unfaithful almost from the start, how she'd caught him twice but stayed hoping he'd change. I gave him everything, she whispered, barely audible, and he gave me nothing but lies. You deserve better, I told her, firm and clear. You deserve to be treated right. Her face softened slightly. Do you really think so? I do, I said. I mean it. The clock struck midnight and the wine bottle was nearly empty. I stood slowly, stretching. I should probably get going. It's late. She walked me to the door but stopped, struggling with something like she was torn between speaking and holding back. Finally, she looked me in the eyes and said softly, you can stay if you want. Yeah, It caught me off guard. Her voice was quiet, raw, with no hint of flirtation or romance. She just didn't want to be alone. I gave a small nod. All right, I'll stay. She led me back to the couch where I sat beside her. She leaned lightly against my shoulder like it was the only thing keeping her steady. Minutes turned into hours. Her breathing slowed, and she fell asleep against me. I sat there in the dark, wide awake, staring into the silence, knowing deep down that this night had changed something between us. Morning light filtered through the half-closed curtains. I blinked, realizing I hadn't moved all night. Sienna was still there, asleep on my shoulder, breathing softly, peacefully. I carefully shifted my arm to avoid waking her and sat still, soaking in the quiet of the house. The weight of last night lingered heavy and unspoken. After a while, Sienna stirred, her eyes fluttering open. For a moment, she looked confused, then it hit her where she was. She pulled back slightly, tucking her hair behind her ear. I'm sorry, she mumbled. Don't be, I said gently. You just needed someone. She stood up, offering a faint, tired smile. I should make some coffee. With that, I followed her to the kitchen, which felt oddly clean given the night before. She moved quietly, almost automatically, pouring coffee grounds into the filter and filling the pot with water. I didn't say anything, just watched, giving her space without pushing. When the coffee was ready, we sat at the small kitchen table, the only sounds the ticking clock and the hum of the fridge. I can't believe you stayed, she said, finally gripping her mug with both hands like it was the only warm thing in the room. I couldn't just leave, I replied. You shouldn't have had to face that night alone. She stared into her coffee. Jeffrey would have left. He did leave. He ran whenever things got hard. I leaned back in my chair, unsure what to say. You deserve someone who stays, I said after a pause. Someone who doesn't bolt the moment things get tough. No. She sighed deeply and shook her head. I'm not even sure what I deserve anymore. I thought I had it all figured out, the house, the marriage, the whole future. Now it feels like it's all fallen apart. I nodded slowly. Sometimes things have to break apart to make room for something better. She gave a wistful smile. You sound like my therapist. I laughed a little. Guess I've been through enough hurt to fake some wisdom. That caught her off guard. You always seem so together. I shrugged. I was engaged once. She called it off 6 months before the wedding, said she wasn't ready. I thought I'd never get over it, but life keeps pulling you forward even when you're not ready. We sat in silence for a while, understanding each other in a way only two wounded people can. Bottom. After finishing her coffee, she glanced at the door. Want to take a walk? I just need to get out of here for a bit. The late morning air was crisp but pleasant. We wandered down the quiet neighborhood streets, passing familiar houses and tidy lawns. Oddly, no one waved this time, like the world knew she needed space. I forgot what it feels like to breathe fresh air, Sienna said quietly, walking beside me. I've been trapped in my own head for too long. I looked at her, noticing something different in how she carried herself, like a layer of tension had finally lifted. You're stronger than you give yourself credit for, I told her. She gave a faint, uncertain smile. That's kind of you to say. As we walked, the conversation shifted to lighter topics. Movies we liked, bad takeout orders, old vacation mishaps. Slowly, she started to laugh again. At first, soft and hesitant, then easier, freer, real. I found myself smiling just watching her. It's nice to hear you laugh again, I said. I didn't realize how much I missed it. Me neither, she replied. It feels like forever since I've felt anything close to normal. By the time we looped back to her house, she looked different. Still tired, still healing, but no longer buried under it. At the bottom of her front steps, she turned to me. Thanks, Lucas. I don't think I've ever had someone show up like you did. You don't have to thank me, I said honestly. I'm just glad I could be there. She looked at me, her eyes steady, her voice trembling slightly. I've spent years surrounded by people, and I've never felt so safe. I didn't know how to respond, but I felt it too, a quiet pull between us, something unspoken but real. I gave her a small nod and said softly, Sienna, call me anytime. As I started to turn toward home, I felt her hand gently wrap around my wrist. I paused and looked back. Would you stay for lunch? She asked, her tone almost shy. I know it's a lot to ask after last night. I just don't want to be alone. That hit me hard, her honesty and vulnerability. Not dramatic, just real. Of course, I said, with a warm smile. I'd love to. Wow. We ended up in the kitchen making sandwiches and laughing about how badly I sliced the tomatoes. We sat and ate like we'd known each other for years. The awkwardness gone, the conversation flowing naturally. I learned she loved gardening, collected antique postcards, hated mushrooms, but loved mushroom soup. The warm, golden sunlight streamed through the windows, and I had a quiet realization I didn't want to leave. She didn't need to say it. I could see she didn't want me to leave either. It wasn't romantic yet, but there was something real, a connection forged from broken pieces. When I finally stood to go, hours later, she walked me to the door. "Thank you again, Lucas," she said softly. "You have no idea how much this meant." "I'm here like I promised whenever you need," I replied. Walking back to my house, I felt a calm I hadn't known in a long time. My life had been simple, predictable, and enough until now. Meeting her in her storm had already shifted something in me. I hesitated before closing my front door, glancing back at her house. I knew I'd be back. The next few weeks settled into a quiet rhythm neither of us expected. I'd stop by after work to check on her sometimes, just to say hi sometimes, with a coffee or a small bouquet of flowers from the market. At first, I didn't know why I did it. It just felt right. I wasn't trying to impress her. I just wanted to see her smile. And slowly she did. The first time I brought flowers, simple daisies and sunflowers, she stared at them like they were the first act of kindness she'd seen in years. "No one's ever brought me flowers just because," she said quietly, her eyes welling up. "Well," I said with a smile, "now someone has." Our afternoons were often spent on her porch, sipping coffee or lemonade, watching life pass by. Sometimes we talked about silly things, bad movies, weird takeout orders, random memories from our past. Other days we dove deeper, discussing regrets, heartache, betrayal, the damage of trusting the wrong person. Sienna never hid how broken she still felt. Her smile was back, but something remained guarded behind her eyes. One evening as the spring breeze rustled the trees, I caught her staring at her wedding ring. "I keep thinking if I take it off, it'll be real," she whispered. I reached out lightly, brushing my fingers over hers. "You don't have to rush it," I said. "There's no timeline for healing." She looked at me, her eyes soft and searching. "You're so good at this," at what I asked, making me feel like it's safe to breathe again. That hit me harder than I expected. I hadn't come into her life looking for anything, but with each day I cared more. It wasn't about looks, though she was undeniably beautiful. It was her strength, her honesty, the mix of toughness and fragility, how she could laugh one moment and cry the next. But I knew I had to be careful with her heart. One night we stood under her porch light after a long walk along the lake path. There was a pause, one of those moments that lingers too long to be casual. "Want to come inside?" she asked softly. I hesitated, my heart pounding. I could see the conflict in her eyes. Part of her wanted closeness, part was still scared. "Not tonight," I said gently. "I don't want you to think I'm expecting anything. I'm here because I care, not because I want something from you." Relief washed over her face, but it hid something deeper, something scared. "You're really different," she whispered, "and that's what scares me." I gave her a calm smile. "Then we go at your pace." Over the next few days, small changes appeared. Without saying anything, she took off her wedding ring and put it away. She laughed louder, her smiles lasted longer. She even teased me after I ruined a batch of pancakes one morning. One Saturday, she asked if I'd help her plant flowers in her backyard. We knelt in the dirt together, laughing as we tried to keep her golden retriever, Rusty, from digging up what we'd just planted. Rusty had grown attached to me, always trailing me like a little shadow. "I guess Rusty likes you better than me right now," she said playfully, brushing dirt off her jeans. I leaned back, grinning. "Can you blame him?" "I bring snacks," after we sat on the lawn, sipping lemonade, admiring our messy little garden. "Thank you, Lucas," she said quietly, "for what I asked, for making me feel human again." I reached over gently, brushing my fingers over hers. "Sigh, you've always been human. You've just been walking through hell." Our eyes locked for a moment longer than they should have. I saw warmth in her gaze, mixed with hesitation. Her walls were only halfway down. I slowly pulled my hand back. I didn't want to push before she was ready. Later that week, I came home from work to find a small box on my doorstep. Inside was a coffee mug with "Best Neighbor Ever" written in bold letters. A handwritten note was tucked beside it. "You've done more for me in these weeks than I can put into words. Thank you for reminding me good people exist." I stood there holding the note, feeling something settle inside me. This wasn't just friendship anymore. I couldn't deny it. I cared about her in a way I hadn't let myself care since my own heart was broken years ago. Still, I knew she wasn't fully ready to open that door, not yet. Maybe. The next night, we sat on the couch watching old Seinfeld episodes, Rusty curled up between us, snoring softly. Sienna yawned and gently rested her head on my shoulder. "Is this okay?" she asked, barely above a whisper. "Of course," I said instantly. "Whatever feels right for you." Her voice trembled slightly. "I don't know where this is going, Lucas, but I don't want you to leave." I wrapped my arm around her, protective, not possessive. "I'm not going anywhere." In that quiet moment, something shifted. We weren't just two people escaping loneliness. We were becoming something new, tender, real. I stayed longer that night, holding her close as the TV hummed in the background, our conversation fading into easy nonsense. When I finally left, she stood at the door watching me walk away, her eyes warm but uncertain. I couldn't erase her pain, I knew that, but I could show her slowly and carefully what it looks like when someone truly cares. Crossing the street under the starry sky, I found myself smiling. For the first time in years, I felt like something good was starting. One Friday, I pulled into her driveway, heart racing, clutching two plane tickets in my hand. I'd spent days debating if it was too much, too soon, too risky, but I trusted my gut. Sienna needed a break, something new, away from the weight of her routine. She opened the door with that tired smile that still lit up the room. "Hey," she said, tilting her head. "What's with that weird grin?" I held up the envelope. "Okay, I know this sounds crazy, but I got us tickets to San Diego." "Just a week, no pressure, just sun peace and a change of scenery?" She stared stunned. "Are you serious?" "Dead serious," I nodded. "I know you're still healing, but sometimes a new place helps you breathe again." She looked like she might say no. Then something shifted in her face. A slow, genuine smile spread. "You're impossible, Lucas. I'll take that as a yes," I teased. She laughed, really laughed, and it filled the room. "Yes," she said. "I'd love that." Itama. The next morning, we boarded our flight. We didn't talk much, but the silence felt comfortable, natural, like neither of us needed to fill it with words. When we landed in California, the warm air wrapped around us like a blanket. Sienna took a deep breath and closed her eyes. "This feels so good." We checked into a quiet boutique hotel on the edge of town with mountain views and palm trees swaying in the breeze. Our first full day was spent wandering local shops, browsing a vintage bookstore, and sipping iced lattes at a sidewalk cafe. I caught myself watching her when she wasn't looking, how her eyes sparkled at desert flowers, how she grinned at cheesy postcards. That evening, we ate dinner under string lights at a small cafe tucked among palm trees and adobe walls. The food was great, but I barely noticed. I couldn't stop looking at her. She seemed relaxed in a way I hadn't seen before. Bua. Later, walking back to the hotel under a starry sky, she stopped mid-step and looked at me. "Thank you," she said, soft and earnest. "You were right. I needed this." "You deserve it," I said. "All of it." That week felt like a dream neither of us expected. Mornings started with treks along desert trails, just the sound of wind and quiet footsteps. Afternoons, we'd lounge by the pool, sipping cold drinks, reading or talking about anything and everything in the shade. One afternoon, I caught her staring at the landscape, her face soft and serene in a way I hadn't seen. "I never thought I'd feel peaceful again," she said quietly. "But you gave me that, Lucas." I reached for her hand, and this time she didn't pull away. Every night, we'd try a new restaurant or grab takeout and eat on the balcony, watching the sunset behind the mountains. It became our quiet little ritual, and something in the air between us started to shift. What began as a simple friendship had grown into something deeper, something we hadn't said aloud but both felt. On the sixth day, we rented bikes and rode through the botanical garden's winding trails, alive with color and sunlight. Sienna stopped at a patch of yellow wildflowers and stood still, staring. "My mom loved these," she said softly. "She used to say beauty can grow even in the hardest places." I stepped closer, resting a gentle hand on her shoulder. "She'd be proud of you." Sienna gave a sad smile. I think she would be. Lucas, I finally found someone who sees me the real me. Not just the polished version, not the perfect wife, or the woman who holds it all together. Her words hit me hard. I wanted to tell her I loved her right then, but I held back. The timing wasn't right and she was still healing. I didn't want to rush something so real. Well, before we knew it, our last night in San Diego arrived. We decided to walk along the resort's edge, where the open desert met the mountains. The sky was streaked with fading orange and gold lighting up the distant peaks. We walked in silence for a bit until Sienna stopped and turned to me. I was dreading going home, she said, but for the first time in years, I think I can do it because of you. I gently took both her hands in mine. Sienna, you did this. I just got to walk beside you as you found your way back. Her voice dropped to a whisper. I'm still scared, Lucas. I'm scared to trust again. I'm scared you'll leave. I brushed my thumb across the back of her hand. I'm not going anywhere. For the first time, she leaned in and kissed me. It wasn't urgent or passionate, it was gentle, deliberate, full of quiet hope. When we pulled apart, we didn't say anything. We didn't need to. Standing there under the stars, hand in hand, we both knew this trip had changed everything. The next morning, we packed quietly, but it wasn't heavy or sad. It was calm, steady, like we knew this wasn't an end, but a new beginning. Sienna rested her head on my shoulder as we waited to board the plane. Lucas, she murmured, thank you for bringing back a part of me I thought was gone. I kissed the top of her head. It's just the start. I smiled. As the plane took off, I knew what was coming, and I was ready. We both were. When we landed and walked through the small airport back home, something in her had shifted. The weight she used to carry was lighter now. Her steps weren't rushed or guarded. She had a calm about her I'd never seen before. The ride home was mostly quiet, but the silence between us felt warm, easy. When we got to her house, Rusty greeted us like we'd been gone a year, barreling down the hall and nearly knocking Sienna over with his excitement. She laughed, dropping to her knees to hug him, and for the first time I noticed how beautiful her laugh was when it was unburdened, pure and free. In the weeks that followed, life took on a new rhythm. We still went for evening walks, ordered terrible takeout, and spent nights watching old sitcoms or just sitting on the porch in the comfort of silence. But something was different now. There was a closeness, a peace, a knowing. We didn't need to talk about it, it was just understood. Neither of us wanted to lose what we were slowly building. One night, as we walked our usual lakeside trail, she quietly slipped her hand into mine. No hesitation. That single gesture said more than words ever could. We stopped at our favorite bench overlooking the water, the sky glowing with pinks and deep oranges, the breeze soft against our skin. Sienna let out a long, slow sigh, the kind that says someone's finally able to breathe again. I didn't expect to feel whole again, she said quietly. You were never broken, I replied. You were just hurting. She squeezed my hand. You have no idea what you've done for me, Lucas. I don't know how to thank you. You don't have to, I said. I'd known what I wanted to do for a while. I'd rehearsed it in my head 100 times, running through every possible outcome. Then I knew it was time. I stood slowly and turned to her. She looked up puzzled, her face soft and curious. I reached into my jacket and pulled out the small velvet box I'd been carrying since we got back from San Diego. Her eyes widened the moment she saw it. Sienna, I began, my voice steady despite my racing heart. Neither of us expected this. We weren't looking for it, but what we found is real. I paused, searching her eyes. You've made me believe in love again. You've shown me what it means to care without keeping score, to stay even when things are messy and uncertain. I can't imagine my life without you in it. I opened the box, revealing a simple, stunning diamond ring. Will you marry me? Sienna stared at the ring, then back at me, her hands trembling as she brought them to her mouth. Tears welled in her eyes. I don't know what to say, she said, her voice shaking. Then say what you feel, I said gently. She shook her head, laughing through the tears streaming down her cheeks. You caught me completely off guard. I grinned, my heart pounding. I've been known to do that. Sienna stepped forward, wiping her eyes. It's been 15 years, Lucas. I spent 15 years feeling invisible in a life where I gave everything to someone who didn't care. I truly thought I'd never be enough for anyone again. Then you walked across the street and gave me my life back. She cupped my face in her hands, her touch warm and sure. Yes, she whispered, her voice breaking. Yes, Lucas, I'll marry you. I slipped the ring onto her finger as her tears fell freely, her smile bright, radiant, and full of life. We held each other close, neither wanting to let go. Her head rested on my chest, and for the first time in a long time, we both felt completely safe. 6 months later, we stood by the lake where I'd proposed exchanging vows in a small private ceremony. The same bench where I'd asked her to be mine was now a quiet witness to our new beginning. Rusty, our goofy golden retriever, happily trotted down the aisle as our ring bearer, tail wagging wildly. Close friends and family joined us as Sienna and I promised our lives to each other under the soft Virginia sky. I vowed to love her through good days and bad, to be patient as she healed, and to never stop showing up. Tears streamed down her face as she smiled through them. She promised to let herself be loved, to believe this was real, and to never forget that I'd saved her when she couldn't save herself. When the officiant pronounced us husband and wife, I kissed her deeply, fully, right there under that wide blue sky, surrounded by everyone who mattered. Our life together wasn't perfect. There were hard days, nights when fear crept in, moments when old wounds reopened. But we never faced them alone again. We held hands through the storms. We traveled, adopted another rescue dog, and turned her house, now ours, into a home filled with laughter, light, and second chances. Evenings were often spent on the porch, Rusty dozing at our feet, the lake sparkling in the setting sun. Sienna would rest her head on my shoulder and whisper, I never thought I'd have this. And I'd always reply, you deserve every second of it. What we had didn't come from a perfect fairy tale. It came from patience, from kindness, from believing again when it was hard, from choosing each other when it would have been easier to walk away. That was our story, and it was exactly as it was meant to be. The story of Lucas and Sienna offers a profound lesson about the power of compassion and presence in healing broken hearts. It reminds us that life's most meaningful connections often arise in unexpected moments, born from simply showing up for someone in their darkest hour. Lucas didn't set out to change Sienna's life. He was just a neighbor offering a listening ear, yet his willingness to stay to see her pain and to walk beside her through it sparked a transformative bond. This teaches us that true kindness, being there without judgment or expectation, can help someone rediscover their worth and find hope again. Sienna's journey from betrayal to rediscovering love shows that healing is not linear, but with patience and genuine care, we can rebuild even after profound loss. Their story also underscores the courage it takes to trust again, to let love in after years of hurt, and to choose connection despite fear. This tale pulls at the heartstrings because it's real, messy, tender, and deeply human. It invites us to reflect on the moments we've been there for someone or when someone showed up for us. Have you ever found hope in an unexpected act of kindness? Share your story in the comments. We'd love to hear how compassion has shaped your life. If this resonated with you, hit that subscribe button and join our community for more stories that celebrate the beauty of human connection. Let's keep exploring life's lessons together and lift each other up.